Hi, I'm Ryan with Best Delegate, and I'm here with Judith Cunningham, the Executive Director of Montessori, Model United Nations. Thank you for having me.
It's been delightful to have you, Ryan, and for the parents to hear your story, how being a Model UN delegate changed your life.
Thank you, and I know you're changing the lives of the students who are coming here, some who have come for the past 5 years, the existence of this conference.
Yes.
And you recognize them individually.
Yes.
At opening ceremonies.
Yes. And the teachers, because it is the passion of the teachers to prepare the students and to raise the money and to bring the children here and to engage the parents. So really it's a partnership that we have with schools and with teachers. We even have had teachers who have left schools and taken positions at other schools and keep their relationship with Model UN. So we know that our greatest partnership is with the teachers and then with the parents.
Yes, and again, for me, coming from a purely Model UN perspective, and then this is my first time attending a Montessori conference, and seeing the combination between these two, what I see as educational philosophies, which are very complementary, Montessori and Model UN. And I wanted to ask, how did you get involved with Model UN? What was your exposure to it?
Well, I guess I was prepared by being a Montessori teacher and a Montessori administrator. That what really appealed to me about Montessori was the idea that through education you could build a peaceful world, that if you help children learn how to negotiate and solve problems and to use their creative energies and had them grow that intuitive compassion that they have, that you really could build a peaceful world. And so really in my years as a teacher, I was always looking for ways to make current events real in the classroom for the students. And then I met Ambassador Lorenzo, and he asked me if there was a Montessori Model United Nations, and I said,
really?
No, I don't think so. And he told me then that was my job to do that. So when he said that, if you do this, I will help you. I will open the doors of the UN to you. It was, an arrangement I had to say yes to, but I didn't know that how it would pick up.
Sure.
And so when we started, we sent out an email blast to all the Montessori people that we knew, which was probably 75 people, 75 schools, to come to a teacher training workshop. Approximately 30 people came, and of that 30, 25 were here at this conference.
Wow.
Yes.
Quite the retention.
It was tremendous. And because those people responded, they really responded at many levels, at an intellectual and at a spiritual level, about wanting to make a difference. And so at the first conference there were 400 people, and there are 1,400 now.
Wow.
So truly this was an idea whose time had come.
Yes.
That the alignment of Montessori principles with Model UN is a perfect alignment, and I think the program will continue to grow, and we are looking to creating more opportunities for regional Model UN conferences.
Interesting.
Because it's very expensive for students to come here to New York, and we have students from China, Japan, Sweden, Ghana, Puerto Rico, Canada, Mexico, of course the United States, but even Hawaii. So it's truly an international conference, but we're looking at ways to make it more local so that it is affordable at the same time.
Interesting. So Montessori Model UN conferences hosted by different Montessori schools, or at least in different regions.
Yep.
And spreading Model UN and also aligned with Montessori. And if I could pinpoint what I think is a key shared principle, that in my experience and from going around the country, that I found Model UN to be a motivational experience for students who are experienced, who are in committee through it. And then for Montessori, from what I've learned from it, is that it motivates students to learn, like in their day-to-day classroom, creating an environment of learning. And it's all these interrelationships where you're taking this environment from the classroom and now to the conference. And they're playing maybe not with different toys or materials in class, but they're playing with ideas.
Yes.
resolutions.
Yes.
And the learning just kind of happens in the process. So that's what I've, at least for me, come to really appreciate about the shared views between. And I also wanted to point out, but some of the things that I thought were different that make Montessori MUN different from your typical conference, and it seems certain practices have carried over from the Montessori classroom to the conference. So students sitting on the floor during a moderated caucus, they're very comfortable apparently to sit on the floor.
Yes.
Passing around a peace pen, a pen to decide who gets to speak, and then raising their hands and waiting respectfully. And then from the Model UN side, no awards.
Exactly.
And a heavy emphasis, focus on cooperation and consensus building. And I know that you and I kind of spoke about that.
Yes.
But what would you say like really differentiates Montessori Model UN from the typical Model UN conference, the stereotypical idea of Model UN conference?
Well, I agree with exactly what you said. We focus on collaboration, and many Model UN conferences are competitive. We've taken away the competitive elements. And interestingly, when we met with the head of the cyber school bus, Bill Yoda, and we've actually been working with him for many years, he's told us that our conference more truly replicates what happens at the UN.
Interesting.
Ambassadors work on building consensus, that they spend most of their time not in committee, but in not even unmoderated caucuses, but talking to one another, whether it's at a cocktail party or at lunch or in the hall of the UN, really trying to get their position to be understood and to understand the other position, so that many things don't even have to come for a vote, that there's an agreement that everyone, that by consensus,
passage by consensus as opposed to forcing a public vote on those issues.
And so the UN has finally created their own Model UN program called MMUN. Global, I guess, Educational Model UN. And that program it uses the rules of consensus. So we've incorporated those rules also within our program, but it's so much a part of how we operate as Montessori teachers that it's by second nature for us to do that.
In terms of garnering consensus amongst your students. And because again, this is something that I brought up with you before, was like, okay, I mean, you have the ambassador from North Korea or from Iran, like what kind of consensus can you hope to build with other delegates? And I know you pointed out that if you don't force the public vote and you just have things passed by consensus, then you can actually get around that problem.
Yes, you can, but I think also, at a certain point, students will become more politically savvy about the issues of power among nations, and how those kind of relationships can be built, and how the regional caucuses can be developed. I think that for our middle school students, understanding the use of power and the use of resources, how it's differed in use among countries, then can make them more, you might say, savvy about how politics really do work.
Interesting.
However, our first basic approach is to try to do things through consensus building.
Right. And I mean, that's the tension, right? Which I posited to you as there's this spectrum between, idealism and realism. And I know that you pointed out to me, it's like, well, if you can have it through consensus, that this idealistic conference is actually more realistic. Which I thought was pretty good way to put it. But wow, no, that's again very different from what I've seen. For me, it's been an enlightening experience, both in terms of Model UN and just my first exposure to Montessori. And one question that I ask all the secretaries general of every conference has been, what does Model UN mean to you? And I wanted to ask you the same question. What does Model UN mean to you? And although I feel that it's more, what does Montessori Model UN mean to you?
To me, it's my work for world peace. I believe the next leaders will come from these conferences, and I have great respect, and I am inspired by their vision for a world that can be different than the world that I have been part of. And so I see great hope for the future, and that's why I do this.
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome,
Thank
Ryan.
you for
It's
having
been
me.
such a pleasure to have you here.
It's been a pleasure to be at this conference. Thank you so much.
Okay, you know when we're going to be here next year.
Okay.
Okay, so
Okay.
see you next year.
Okay.
All right, cool.